Hello, and welcome to this episode of the University of Strathclyde's Inspiring Conversation series. I'm John Anderson. I'm Director of Growth at Strathclyde Business School, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Ray, co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer at Scotland's largest social media agency, the award-winning We Are Hydrogen. Welcome, Daniel. It's great to have you here today. So, start with, could you tell us a little about yourself, your journey, your early career, and what made you start out, choices you made early on?
Sure. I'll try not to bore you to death with it, but I'll have a go. So I went to school like most people, finished off with some hires, ended up going to college in Glasgow. At the time it was the College of Building and Printing, so showing my age there. And did an HND, then went on to Cali Uni to do a degree in multimedia. Multimedia technology was a degree I came out with. At the end of that, I wanted to be a web designer, websites, and it was booming at the time. But the pace of technology went beyond what you get taught at college and uni to some degree. So I wasn't really qualified to come out with a jack of all trades degree with bits of graphic design, bits of audio editing, bits of programming, bits of all sorts, but not really qualified for one career path. And at the time, I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed by that because I felt like I wasn't ready for one particular direction. But in hindsight, 19 years later, that jack of all trades thing's actually really, really helpful, particularly starting a business. So I went into some different roles. I worked for Strathclyde Police, again, showing my age at the time. I then went to North Lanarkshire Council, working in a communications role. So I wrote leaflets, flyers, dealt with printers, the offline kind of communications side of things. Went to another company called Gale Limited, based in East Kilbride, who were bought over by Ideagen a few years ago. So that was my first real social media-ish role. Now this was again pre-social media being mainstream, but my job was to create an online community. So they had clients in Australia and in America and Europe, all over the world. So we built this online community for people to talk to each other, to support each other. So a kind of peer-to-peer support community. Then I started to dabble at LinkedIn and Twitter for the company, and that's where I got my first taste of social media when it was really just starting to take off. So for me, I thought, this is a growing area, this is a field I can really get my teeth into and own at this early stage. So I started to look for other jobs in that field, and then I worked for SSE Energy for a couple of years. So set up their social media presence, managed their Facebook and Twitter pages, and that was a good couple of years there. Energy's tough, people hate their energy company. No one likes to pay their bills, electricity, gas, you don't really see it. So a lot of negativity towards the company and the bills and rises and all the rest of it. But they did sponsor the Hydro at the time. They sponsored the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. So I got to work on some sponsorship projects that were pretty cool. But I worked with agencies, and that's the first time in my career I've worked with agencies before. And I thought, yeah, they look pretty fun. They've got different clients, they work on different stuff. That's the life for me. Let's give it a go. So I started looking for agency jobs, and then moved to a company called Dog Digital in Glasgow. Worked a couple of years there. Went to another company called Persona Social, where I headed up a team of social media people, first time leading a team. And that agency didn't go well. They tried to merge together multiple agencies with a London company. The merge just didn't go to plan. So my MD at the time, Mike, left, set up his own thing, which was hydrogen. Asked if I wanted to join him. I said no, because I've got a 1-year-old, a mortgage, and it sounds far too risky to start a company at this stage. But I said to him, tell you what, get a client on board and I'll jump ship. Wasn't sure he'd do it, but he did. Managed to wangle a client, and I couldn't say no. So I jumped ship from Persona, joined Mike and set up Hydrogen. Persona ceased to exist 6 months later, and Hydrogen has grown over the last 7 years from 3 staff to 32 currently. I think it's fair to say I'm pretty successful. So that's my career journey to date.
Wow. I think that's probably the only word.
That was a download thing, wasn't it?
Incredible. So it was so interesting, isn't it? You start off, you think, I'm not being given something I can go straight into a career, and I'm this jack of all trades, as you described it. Yeah, actually, it's the best thing. I think it's multiple experience. It's dead easy in hindsight. At the time, of course, it's not so easy. So really interesting journey of finding something, moving, just that must have been quite exciting, being at the early days of something. Yeah. What were the challenges at that point, and how did you, if you get it, you see it immediately, and yet big corporate, the employer, the customer base doesn't necessarily see it at that time. What did you have to do to be able to communicate and persuade?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of challenges. Social media it wasn't taken seriously at the time. It wasn't, no one was given a senior role. It was seen as a nice to have, an add-on, a tick box sort of thing. Arguably it still is for some corporations too. It shouldn't be, but arguably it still is. So it's a challenge to get buy-in from a board level, I guess, from a senior level, to invest in resource and time and user agencies and so on to make social media work. Because, non-visionary execs back in the day, think social media, it's just Facebook, it's dead simple. Everyone's got a Facebook. There's no future in that. But actually, it's a brilliant customer service channel. It's a brilliant marketing channel. Advertising is so powerful. And, obviously I'm slightly biased because I set up a social media agency in that field. But yeah, I think buy-in in the early stage was a challenge. And I think we're finally turning a corner, probably turned a corner in that. You can see the roles out there. People have social media exec, manager, heads of social roles. There's so much depth in it now. There's agencies, there's software. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it works for all the... There's a lot of criticism. People don't like Facebook. People don't like Elon Musk running Twitter. And I totally get that. I'm conflicted, I suppose, on that. But it's a powerful tool, and it's a powerful tool for business.
And it's not just, I think typically I've seen it very powerfully used where you've got an e-commerce business, for example, you've got this a wonderful tool set out there for, right, you've got customers globally. My experience is that you have to be on this the entire time. You can't dip in and out of managing social media.
Yeah, I think it's about building trust and building transparency too. Brands can often be quite faceless with just a logo, just a company. Social media gives you that power to show the people behind the brand. And for the modern buyer, we're talking about Gen Z, and people younger than me, they want to trust and believe in the people they buy from or do business from or interact with. So they don't want a big corporation, faceless corporation. They want people. And we've seen that. We've had some success with TikTok and different channels too. And I think that's the future of social.
It's interesting how you had platforms that were around in my age. I remember getting a thing when my kids were at school about, the dangers of social media.
There still are dangers. I think that's something that is quite close to my heart. I've got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I do worry. 13 is supposed to be the age that you get on social networks. A lot of people do it before that, so there is a whole job to be done, I think, in policing it, and there's dangers with it.
I think that's the key, to just focus on this as an opportunity, particularly even for, talked about the energy industry.
Yeah, who would think of an energy company on Facebook?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And is that now mainstream in big corporates?
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised to find any large company not having a presence on these channels, on Facebook and Twitter, for our news, broadcasting, kind of updating use. Yeah, the new one for that is TikTok, as I mentioned. It's fresh out. It's not that fresh now, but it's new compared to other social networks. There's a fear around it. Maybe it's because it's from China and the government might ban it, or maybe it's just because it's full of kids, doing dances and stuff like that. People are quite dismissive of it as a channel. I'm not a regular personal user of TikTok. I watch a lot of stuff. I lose a few hours, but I don't post to it. But there's huge potential there. So I think with all social media, an open mind is essential to explore and test and give it a bash, because it actually might work. You might find a niche for TikTok. It might be customer service. It might be showcasing new products and services. But it's the open mind, I think, is key for success.
Because you adopted your own TikTok.
Yes, and I'll take no credit for that. I've got a very talented team. Hannah leads on that, and I've got some great personalities in the team that get people coming back and commenting and often arguing with their opinions. But we've got a niche. It's very Scottish, very local. Kind of looking at marketing, looking at life in general. But it's been a roaring success. Loads of views, loads of followers. If you're cynical, you might look at it and say, hey, you're spending all this time sitting running TikToks and interviewing people and not doing stuff for clients. What do you actually get from it? It's not in the billions. It's not famous all over the world. But there are people in England and Australia who have seen our TikToks. What does it bring to us? Awareness, that reassurance that we know what we're doing, recognition for the company. Maybe not so great for the staff, recognition in the streets for some of my team who are, at gigs, and people say, hey, I recognize you from TikTok. Yes, yeah. It's a little bit scary to be honest, but it shows the success of it. So yeah, there's something in that.
That's so amazing. And I'll be honest with you, actually, you're not copying, you're doing it yourself as well, because you're talking to clients about this.
Yeah.
About, this is an absolutely key part of your communication strategy in brand building, relationship with clients, customers.
Yeah, there's a lot of people are saying, we want to start a Facebook page, we want to get on Twitter, LinkedIn, sure. What about TikTok? No, not TikTok. I'm not doing dances, I'm not doing all that stuff. But the open mind, it isn't right for everyone. I totally get that. It's not right for a lot of organisations, but there is potential in there. Certainly I could see it in
When you help,
education.
I guess, from your service for clients is helping them make decisions on which are the right channels and what to do. I mean, the thing that strikes me, I'm involved in a business where we measure, it's a weddings and hospitality kind of venue where we can measure. I mean, it's the beauty of digital marketing, full stop, is that you can try something. If it doesn't work, you get instant feedback, very quick feedback, then you switch it off. Rather than old-fashioned marketing, the old 50% of your marketing budget is and advertising budget's wasted. Unfortunately, no one knows which 50%. Haha. But I think there's some really interesting. That's the real use case. Is that it's an investment, but there's a very measurable return on investment.
There is, yeah, and that's why test and learn is so important. It's a slightly thrown about cheesy term, but because it's so measurable, you can test, you can try things out, allocate a bit of budget, allocate some time, try something out, give it a few months, see what kind of return you get. If it doesn't work, fine. If it kind of works, learn from it, adapt, tweak, and go on. And that kind of being self-critical and self-evaluating is really important to, even if it's been successful, could it have been better? Is there something we could have done to streamline it and so on? So that approach is kind of drilled into me, because I worked 4 years in a kind of quality management environment, but that continual learning, continual evaluation, tweaking and perfecting things is important for digital marketing. And if you've got a stats there, then it makes it easier.
So would you describe yourself as entrepreneurial, an entrepreneur?
I would now, yeah. Having started a business and sold it last year, yes, I would say I'm an entrepreneur at the start. Yeah, it took a while to get used to it. I'll be honest, starting a business took me a while to get used to being a leader and being a company owner. I was very much a doer, one of the team, so it's probably taken a few years to get my head around that. What I would argue is there's not a lot of training out there when you start a business. Some people go to uni and do degrees in business management. People like me jump into starting a business. You're learning about all the things like property and rent and bills and staff and management. You learn to go. And that's what I enjoy about it. If I'm not learning, then I get bored. So every day is honestly a school day owning a business. But there are some great courses, and I'll give a plug to Help to Grow. I think if anyone's starting a business, there are courses like Help to Grow out there to teach you the basics and reassure you about learning, planning, and all that kind of stuff, which actually 6 years ago would have been really beneficial to me. It was useful later on in the kind of entrepreneurial journey, but definitely would have been useful at the start. But in terms of being an entrepreneur, I don't know if you call entrepreneurialism a skill, but I think it's something I've always thought about. My dad, he wasn't an entrepreneur, he was a manager for a large corporation, but he always had ideas. Oh, you can make money doing this, or imagine having a business doing X, Y, and Z, and look at opportunities. He had that in his brain, and I think that rubbed off on me, and I started to think that way. So I've always had it deep inside, I suppose, and hydrogen was the chance to actually explore it and use it. And I would definitely call myself an entrepreneur now. Don't know what's next, but we'll come to that.
We'll come back to that. I mean, it's interesting because that, when Strathclyde's and the advantage of scale in the entrepreneurship space for over 20 years now, because we started teaching entrepreneurship in late 90s. But the opportunity when Sir Tom came along and successful alumnus go, how can I help? We need to change the attitude. And if we're going to grow an economy, you have to have not just starting businesses, but far more importantly, just grow them. That's how you create employment. Not everyone's going to take that risk or that leap of faith and start a business, but it'd be cool to work for an interesting place rather than the diminishing corporate rules that are out there. In any case, so the profile of entrepreneurship, Strathclyde is by a perfect example, institution-wide entrepreneurship strategy for the entire university, for staff, students, and all. Brilliant. Yeah. It's only taken 20 plus years to deliver what we set out to do, but we have. That's the exciting part of it, and that's why we do this series.
think it's a stereotype too. I think when you think of entrepreneur, you think Richard Branson, you think Sir Tom Hunter and people like this who have made it and made the millions or billions or whatever. But actually, it's anyone from owning a street food cart to starting a business anywhere. So there's a mindset I think needs to change. That being an entrepreneur is accessible. Everyone can do it. And it doesn't matter the scale of your business or your startup. It can be you stay a one-man band forever, or it could be a multi-country corporation.
I think that's a key point, Daniel, because there's a lot of emphasis on, particularly with tech businesses, the whole infrastructure and tech scalers, and we're going to start tech businesses and scale them. I mean, there's all sorts of definitions around scaling, but that very rapid growth, which is inevitably leading to probably an exit, to a sale, which is okay, because we'll come back to it. But there's actually an awful lot of, that there's always a fear if you're not in that space, you shouldn't be doing this. And actually, we should. So I use it articulated brilliant. Entrepreneurship is mindset. It's taking personal responsibility, and you can then decide, because you started and then you saw opportunities. You've got clearly this very inquiring mindset, which is, oh, well, that's interesting. What next? What next? What next? And then, right, I'm interested in how you learned to let go then, because you did say you were always doing your other tools. Yeah. The toughest bit about growing any business is that learning to let go piece. How did you kind of come to realise that's what you needed to do?
Yeah, it took a while. This element of trust, that's not to say I don't trust my staff, but or maybe I'm just too hands-on and a little bit of a control freak. I think it'd be fair to say a little bit. But yeah, it came over time when scale made it impossible for me to be involved in everything. And, that old saying, hire people who are better than you, is absolutely true. And all the younger people coming through with not just degrees, but experience, who understand brands, who understand how to talk to younger generation, older generation. There's better people than me in design and writing content. And that jack of all trades, I've become someone that understands it all. So I'm a jack of all trades thing is good. I can talk to people in different teams, from insights to design to content writing. But the people who do it day in day are better than me ultimately. And that's when you need to let go. The challenge is the leadership side of it, I guess. It's the always on pressure, I suppose, is that the buck stops with you. And that's, it's sometimes in the background, things can be going swimmingly well. Companies growing, winning clients, everything's great. But ultimately, at the back of your mind, you're still the kind of top of the pile, I suppose. So there's that kind of unwritten pressure that there's always on. So that is a challenge of leadership. Now, luckily, I had a business partner from day one. Me and Mike shared a lot of responsibility. So I recommend getting a business partner. Doing it alone can be quite lonely. They say it's lonely at the top, and I now get that a lot. So having a business partner.
And did you have your separate distinct roles, if you like?
Yeah, it was
clear who was doing.
Pretty much. Not black and white, some grey areas, but pretty much. Mike had been an MD before, so took ownership of a lot of financials, the contractual stuff, legal stuff, new business, for example. And I'd come up the ranks from social media exec to head of a social media team, so I was very hands-on. So I would say the skills, the design of the teams and so on came from my own experience at that time, whereas Mike was the business ownership side. And over the years, I've got more experience of that, and I've taken more to do with business development, client services, all that kind of stuff too. But it was a good combo, good foil. We're quite different personalities too, so I would recommend that. He's quite a outgoing, quite a loud person. I'm quite a introverted, quiet person, but together we formed a good team, and testament to the success of Pyrogen and the great support we've got from our team.
Absolutely. So, talk about you mentioned that there was an exit last.
Yeah, Halloween last year. Yeah, spooky day.
It was the process. That's a really interesting thing. Relatively early.
It is early
in the growth of the company.
Yeah, a lot of people ask why we did it, and which is a fair question to ask. This theory was that things were going well, but we both have kids, young kids. So I've got an 8 and 4-year-old, Mike's got an 8-year-old. And you spend a lot of time when you own a business, especially at the start. Even when you get to a bit of scale with 30 staff, you work a lot. As I said, there's that always on kind of ticking at the back of your mind of you're responsible for all of this. So our goal was always to eventually get out. It would be nice to not work till we're old ultimately. So we started to look for opportunities to sell the company. And I look at it like poker a little bit. We felt like we were doing well. We were on an up. We had a stash of chips and we cashed out at that stage. But not just to anyone. It's for, the right partner to take it forward and to increase opportunity for our staff, for our business, and give us an exit plan that worked for us. So I'll be honest, probably a little bit earlier than I thought when we started the company. 40 years old, it's a milestone year. A lot of changes. Sold company, turned 40, feeling quite old now. But but no, it's for the best. I think it's the integration, the kind of transition that we're going through just now has its ups and downs and some challenges, but I think in the long run it's good for everyone.
Every business needs to think about it. Rule number one is you're never for sale. Of course not. So that's a bit of the poker. That's a bit of the poker game. Of course, no. It's not. The key is putting yourself in a position where you don't need to.
Yes.
Because it's not just you. It's not just the two co-founders. It's everyone that's there. Their livelihoods, their careers, their aspirations are on the line as well. So the choice of a partner to sell to, how was that made? How did you and Michael approach that?
We looked at the companies that were interested. We, as you say, in a kind of privileged position when we didn't have to sell. Still, if I still owned it, I wouldn't have to sell at this stage. It was only if the right kind of offer came around. So we looked at the right kind of partners who would safeguard our staff. Absolutely. I wasn't going to take someone that we thought would go bust, for example, or shut down Glasgow and ship all the work to London or abroad or something like that. We also wanted to keep the brand. We spent a lot of time building this brand, and that's, you may say that's a bit selfish because we set up this company and maybe we want to keep it, but actually it's strong. It's well recognised. People love our TikToks now as well, so people know who we are, certainly in Glasgow and beyond, but I think across the UK there's some good recognition. To throw that away would be daft, so we looked for some safeguards around that too. And we looked for some support for our staff too, because the goal for us was to expand beyond the Scottish borders. We had clients in England and abroad, but to become more UK-wide and more international, so we wanted a corporate partner who could help us with it, recognise that growth with the right connections, and luckily we found that. Now we're starting to see opportunities that we would never have seen as hydrogen, which is great. Bit more work in London, because that's where our corporate HQ is. But there's great bigger opportunities coming our way now, which is fantastic to see. And collaborations and partnerships within this organisation for different parts of it too. So it lets us get into new areas too.
So it's a much larger organisation, but you've retained the hydrogen brand.
Yeah, they own hydrogen. They own another agency based in London. They own different companies all around the UK. So they've got a track record of buying the right sort of companies to align with their overall goal. And make them a success or continue their success. So that played a part too. I didn't want someone that was taking a punt on something that was a different industry, because I've seen how it can fail in the past. So, yeah.
Yes, actually, we're kind of like Scotland and the rest of the UK that's littered with what's the motivation for getting out? You're not completely out either. So that's the point. I mean, I've seen people who, right, that's it, right, we're off. Firstly, they've got a figure in mind which they've already spent in their head during the discussion. Maybe not the best way to approach anything anyway, but that care that you've clearly, right, you and Michael have taken in choosing a partner that provides that platform for growth, stability, still lots of opportunities for the team. That's really important. Is there one lesson one lesson in your job, but one lesson in the first stage of your career, because you're 40, so right. So in that first stage of excitement and growing, is there one thing that you wish you had then that now, or one key thing which is for goodness sake, this is the thing you have to do?
It's a tough question. There's a couple of things, I guess. One would probably be not taking things too personally, in the sense of, yes, take pride in your company. It is almost an extension of you to some extent, but losing a client, don't beat yourself up about it. Or a staff member's not happy and wants to leave, don't again beat yourself up too much about it. I think probably early doors I would take criticism of hydrogen personally to me, so that you need to build a little bit of detachment from that, because there's no way in any job, in any career, you're going to keep everyone happy, whether it's clients, staff, etc. You do your best to keep them all happy, but everyone's different. So I think keeping a bit of detachment, if you can, and that's a challenge. But if I could go back, I would probably do that a little bit more. In terms of key skills, one thing I pride myself on, not to sound mega cheesy, is empathy. It's like understanding, or trying your best to understand the other person's viewpoint. Put yourself in the shoes of clients. What are they trying to achieve? What are their constraints? Do they have a boss that's on their back? Do they have a corporate policy that's restricting them? Really trying to understand them, and that's really important from a customer relationship point of view, but also for social media generally. If you're writing for a company, be it an energy company, a whiskey company, different audiences, different tones of voice, so that empathy of understanding their audience and what they're trying to get out is absolutely key to success in social media. So empathy, big thing.
Could empathy be taught to them?
I think you can learn it a little bit, but not taught in the sense of education, university, but from experience. I think it comes. And I think it's a natural gift as well. If you have that as a natural gift, I think you'll go far in marketing.
Best strong piece of advice. You can just see it. There was a stage a few years ago when everyone should start a business. I think with Duncan Bannatyne's, anyone can do it. Came out, you just put your head in your hands, because we did this space a long time. And actually, in many cases, that lack of empathy, actually, lack of understanding of people. I'm a technical expert in this area. I've built a better mousetrap. I've got please come and buy my business type of thing. It's a really interesting change that's happened. And I think it's never really, you go back 20 plus years ago, this journey to Strathclyde Inspire, let's say, the term entrepreneur was frowned upon. It was that sort of you've exploited someone. Now, of course, it's the complete opposite. Actually, in fact, we're becoming more responsible. We're doing things we don't put labels on it. We don't put ESG labels on it. We just grow great businesses that look after people well, look after clients well. Funnily enough, clients keep coming back, referral. It's where you then maintain that, scale that, and make sure that it's there for decades to come, let's say. So, fantastic. I think that you've given us so many little nuggets that it's time to draw it to close.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Guy, for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Really interesting. I think we'll see more of you. I absolutely know we'll see more of you, and it'd be great to get you part of the Strathclyde Inspire community to help others and they can follow your journey.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode of Inspiring Conversations. Thank you for joining us. And remember to tune in again next month. We'll be joined by another inspiring entrepreneurial leader.
To find out more about Strathclyde Inspire, you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter, or search for Strathclyde Inspire on the University of Strathclyde's website. Thank you.